Let's get into the real topic of the day here, our lead topic. There have been some rumors, and these are purely speculation rumors. It's not from an official Schefter that the Browns are eyeing Mike Williams or Jeremy Fowler, who's put out something like that. This is just people connecting the dots online, and I thought it was worth mentioning here. Mike Williams out in Los Angeles could be a cap casualty. Not David Njoku here, but Mike Williams in Los Angeles could be a legit cap casualty. He has familiarity with Deshaun Watson from their time in Clemson, and the Browns are in the market for a free agent wide receiver. If Mike Williams does get cut by the Chargers, how do you think he would fit in with Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and David Njoku in this pass catcher's room? And would you be excited, ecstatic, or out on a Mike Williams signing?
Before you guys respond, let me just say that when I was looking over Mike Williams' stats
in his life
this morning.
Let me see.
And I said, wow, he's played a lot more games than I thought he had. He missed most of last season. He played 3 games. The year before, he missed 4 games. And then the 3 years before that, he only missed 1 game each. Now, you don't want to, but for the last 5 years, he's missed 4 games or less. So maybe he's not as injury prone as we've described him as. That being said, G, go ahead. What do you think, buddy?
Man, look, man, I'm looking at these. So 2017, I think he was hurt too, right? 2017 is
a while. That's a long time ago, though.
Right?
Yeah.
He played. He had 11 catches for 95 yards.
Yeah.
2018, 43 catches for 64. He finally broke 1,000 in 2019. Only 49 catches, 48 catches for 756.
There's some big touchdown numbers.
There are some big touchdown numbers.
Yeah.
His 2018, 10 touchdowns. 2021, 9 touchdowns, and that was his best year, 2021.
And what's funny is those 2 years he had 19. He's only got 12 the rest of his career.
Right. Like, you take a look at 2022, 63 receptions, 895, 4 touchdowns. Now, if we could throw up, this is kind of disgusting because I don't like doing this. Like, what is Elijah Moore's stats?
Well, not as good as that.
I mean, Elijah Moore ain't sniffed on 895. I think it's around 6 something, right?
Yeah. I think that's what did Elijah Moore finish with last year?
Elijah Moore this season finished the year with 640 yards.
Yeah, well, that was the best of his career.
So 640. So, but 59 receptions.
Now he's younger than Mike Williams,
right?
So there's time. But.
There is some time, but the thing about Mike Williams is when you say it, does it get you excited, right? You know, you know how it is, Bull. Like, you know, if you've been chasing a girl for a long time, and you're like, oh man, she finally says yes to the date. There's that one where you're like, heck yeah, I got to get my mind together, or it's the one that's like, she asked me to prom. Mike Williams just asked her to prom, and I'm like, I'm not. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
I ain't really like excited. Like I'm trying to still maneuver and see if Janae is trying to still go, but she go to another school, and it's kind of hard to get at her like that. So it's like, you know, I ain't that excited about Mike. If it was Mike Evans, I'm like, oh, I've been trying to get a Mike Evans. I've been trying to get me a light skin wavy. I've been trying to get me a Mike Evans like that. You know what I'm saying? But.
I mean, if the Browns make this move and Mike Evans is their big offseason splash out wide receiver, I'm cool with it, I guess. It ain't the.
Oh, you mean Mike Williams?
It ain't the most.
Yeah, Mike Williams.
Okay, I said Mike Evans.
Because we both trying to get Mike Evans. So Mike, it's the wrong Mike.
I said Mike Williams, right?
No, you said Evans. I want to make sure you're talking about Williams.
My apologies.
Okay.
I mean, if we end up with Mike Williams, then, I mean, I guess it's cool.
Yeah.
Simply for the simple fact it's an upgrade over everything that we already have in the wide receiver room outside of Amari Cooper. Like, to put a positive spin on it, I mean, the dude is a big play threat. He gets downfield. He's a big play dude. I think he averaged like 15.5 yards per reception since 2017 or something like that. So he's a playmaker. I'm like you. I kind of thought he was more injury prone than what he really is.
Yeah.
Outside of last year, he's played at least 10 games in each season of his career. Inconsistent player, can be more consistent as a football player, but if the Browns was to say, okay, we're going to sign Mike Williams and you pair him with Amari Cooper, and then you got Elijah Moore possibly playing in the slot, I mean, it looks better on paper, you know what I mean? But I don't know if Mike Williams is anything that would get the fan base excited.
I've always been a Mike Williams fan. I've kind of soured on him in the last year because he missed so much time last year.
Especially if he's on your fantasy team.
Right, well, then you kill you.
Then you'd be mad.
But here's the thing, guys. Let's be realistic about the situation, okay? First of all, and I know I won't spill the beans, but I know on Earl's show today he's getting into some trade topics. I won't mention any names. But the reality is, at least as far as I can tell, none of the big-time top 10, top 15 receivers that are not free, none of those guys are free agents, unless you say, T. Higgins and Michael Pittman are on the bottom of that list. But the rest of those guys, none of those guys are getting traded, or at least I don't expect any of them to get traded this offseason. So then you say, well, what about T. Higgins and Michael Pittman? If you sign either of those guys, we're going to be pretty excited. Mm-hmm. Well, the reality is those guys are very likely to get franchise tagged. Yes. Very likely. I'm not 100% certain, but I think we'd all be surprised if those guys are not franchise tagged. In Higgins' case, is it possible to franchise tag and trade him? Sure, but they're not trading him to the Browns if they trade him. So to me, I'm saying none of the superstars that are under contract are getting traded to the Browns. Higgins and Pittman are probably off the board. So who's the best receivers left? Like, who are the best reasonable targets for the Browns to get? Well, okay, Mike Evans. Yeah, there's Calvin Ridley. Yeah, there's Marquise Brown. And then Mike Williams. Like, Mike Evans is a class ahead of the rest of those guys. But I think Mike Williams is in the same class right now as Calvin Ridley and Marquise Brown. You may like one or the other better, and Ridley's, I think, a year younger than Williams, maybe 2, and Brown maybe 2 or 3 years younger. So there may be reasons you like those guys more. But ultimately, I believe they're the same. They're all number 2 receivers. They're good receivers. They're not great receivers. With everything the Browns have had at that position, and outside of Amari Cooper, look at who they've added. They've added guys in the draft that to this point have all done nothing. They added Elijah Moore, who did nothing. So is Mike Williams great? No. Is he going to get me excited like Pittman or Higgins or a trade for some big superstar receiver? No. But based on what's realistically available, he's probably one of the best guys. And so, yeah, I would be more excited about Mike Williams than I was when they traded for Elijah Moore.
I would too.
And that's and ultimately what you want is an upgrade at the second receiver. And I believe that, listen, health is always a thing. You never know. Right. But if healthy, Mike Williams is clearly a level, at least one level better player than Elijah Moore, and that makes the whole wide receiver core better.
What was the injury?
I don't even remember.
I can't remember what it was either.
I don't know. We could look that up, guys, what Williams
But no, I agree with what Bull is saying. I definitely think it's an upgrade. You definitely will upgrade the number 2 wide receiver on your team. Like, when the dude is healthy, just from what my eyes have seen when I watched the Chargers play, like, this is the dude that, he was the downfield target for Justin Herbert all the time. Whenever he was going to take a big shot. Hell, he torched the Browns a couple years ago.
He did.
When we went out there to play them. So, like, we seen firsthand that when he's healthy and he's on top of his game, he can be a difference maker and he can have an impact. He's a really good player.
I mean, he's probably or at least before last year, I think we would have looked at him as, a bottom-end top 30 wide receiver towards the bottom. But what was his injury, Mike?
So in 2020, this is his whole injury history, by the way. In 2023, he tore his ACL in his left knee.
Oh, that's not great.
That was this year.
Yeah.
In 2022, he aggravated a right ankle injury. He had a right ankle injury, missed a little bit of time. In 2022, earlier, he was helped off the field with a high ankle sprain.
So that's probably the same injury.
In 2020, he had lower back lumbar sprain. Earlier in 2020, he had a thigh and hamstring strain.
Yeah.
In preseason of 2020, he had a shoulder AC joint sprain. In 2019, he had lower back lumbar muscle spasms. In 2015...
Well, at that point, don't worry about 2015.
This was in Clemson. He had a neck fracture.
The bottom line is he has had a number of injuries, but outside of last year, he hasn't missed a ton of time.
Yeah.
Outside of last year. Now, the ACL tear is a big deal.
Yeah.
But I would think he'll be ready for the start of the season.
He was injured in week 3, by the way.
Yeah.
So similar, a week after Nick Chubb, but you would expect a full year recovery by the time the season starts.
I'd be scared.
It is risky.
I'd be scared. I'd be scared for big receivers that really wasn't that fast.
That's the point.
Like, if you was already a big body receiver and then you wasn't really a burner, then you get an ACL, like, you run an 84 on Madden now.
What did he run coming out of college? Do you know?
1 sec.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty fast, or I must be wrong about that. But I mean,
Mike Williams ran a 4.53 and a 4.51 in his 2 official 40-yard dashes.
He probably run about a 4.67 now.
What is he, like, 6'4", 218?
He's 6'4", 228 is his official listing.
That ain't bad for 6'4", 228, though.
I know, but I don't
dude.
like.
Listen,
that's a big
the
refrigerator.
I had not remember. Obviously, we hadn't remembered it was an ACL. Now that we know, like, that factors in. But the bottom line is, we talked about this. You even said yesterday, "Hey, the guy can play 12, 14 games. I'll take it."
And beggars can't be choosers.
Even if he gets off to a slow start next year, my guess is, if he plays 12 games for them next year, it's a better 12 games than anybody else on their roster, no doubt. Now, again, I'd rather have some of these other guys. Marquise Brown, though, has had his injury issues. Yes. Mike Evans has been a relatively healthy player, but he's kind of old at this point. He was still good last year. Yeah. And he's not the speed guy you're looking for.
No, he's not.
From that angle, Ridley and Marquise Brown make the most sense.
It's funny because, like Bull alluded to, I got big dreams for the wide receiver position. Like, I got the guys that I know I really, really want. Yeah. But at the same time, in my mind, I know it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Like, if I had my pick of the litter, give me T. Higgins first, give me Michael Pittman Jr. second. Like, these are two dudes to where I believe that once Amari moves on, they can turn into your number one wide receiver. Then you kind of figure out the rest of the room from there. But to your point, like, when we start peeling these layers back and we get down to, okay, who are some legit, realistic options that can be a difference maker, I think Mike Williams' name will pop up there probably top 3. Because if you look at the dudes who's realistically option that can make plays and score touchdowns and put points on the board, then that dude is one of those guys.
Look at some of the other wide receivers, G. Wouldn't you rather have Mike Williams than Darnell Mooney? Yeah. Would you rather have Mike Williams than Gabe Davis?
But see, I think they cancel each other out. I think Davis and Williams cancel each other out. I think they're the same player.
But Gabe Davis is younger.
I was just about to say that. Same player, but he's younger.
So inconsistent.
The problem.
He played with a great quarterback.
You know what hurts me the most is because this draft class at receiver is one of the best draft classes in like 30, 40 years. Like, they got ball players, bro. Like, Marvin Harrison, Roman Dunze, Malik Neighbors is a monster. Brian Thomas from LSU is crazy. Keon Coleman from Michigan State transferred to Florida State.
Are they all going in the first 15 picks?
They might. These guys are legit.
Even if the Browns had their first round pick, they couldn't get any of those guys. Probably.
Yeah, Troy Franklin is a guy at 8. Xavier Legette from South Carolina, I like him a whole lot. Big body dude. Jalen Polk from Washington is great. Rome Wilson is a dude that
Well, not all those guys are going to go that high. So
no, they'll be in the second round.
Trading up to the top of the second round might be a possibility.
Do the Browns have a second round pick?
Yeah, they got a second round pick. But here's the thing, though: when it comes to the wide receiver position, if we look at Andrew Berry's track record, he's had the most success when he's traded for a wide receiver.
Yes.
Well,
like he tried to sign.
Only success is Amari Cooper.
I'm
no
just
other
saying.
success at that position.
No success drafting the guy. You tried to sign a couple guys in free agency, and it didn't work out either. So it'll be interesting to see how he attacks, like trying to like acquire talent. I'm gonna try to like trigger some thoughts later on with that. But I mean, if we was to end up with Mike Williams, like I said, I'm not mad at it. Yeah. It's just not my first option.
Right. So who's your choice? Let me ask you this. We'll wrap the conversation up with this. If we take out the guys, if we leave on the board the guys who are most realistic, we'll say Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, and what's his name from the Cardinals?
Marquise
Brown.
Can we please possibly leave Pittman on there?
No. I just doesn't make sense to me that the Colts wouldn't franchise him. I just can't see that as realistic.
If I'm going to go up top.
Of those 5 guys, who are you taking?
If I'm going to go up top, I swing for the fences. I'm giving me Mike Evans.
Even though Ridley and Brown are better speed guys?
Yes, because he gets 13 touchdowns.
Probably.
This guy got 13.
I mean, let's face it. Mike Evans is better than Amari Cooper.
I second G, by the way.
Yeah.
I second G.
If you're going to go up top. Mike Evans is Hall of Fame.
Now, Mike Evans could go over the cliff. This could be the year he goes over the cliff.
I like the thing that you just said. Like, that's hard. That's a hard rebuttal.
Yeah.
Mike Evans better than Amari Cooper.
I mean, he is. Is that a better career?
And so, like, and we love Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
It's the best thing we ever had. So
I mean, with Amari Cooper and Mike Evans, you have 2 top 20 wide receivers.
Fact.
That's fact.
No question.
That's the only scenario.
That's fact.
That's the only realistic scenario in my mind where you have 2 top 20 wide receivers. So I would go with Mike Evans.
Of those 5 guys, Mike Evans would be first for me, and I think I would have Calvin Ridley second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my top.
I think I would take Marquise Brown second, then Ridley, and then Mike Williams.
So am I being biased? The only reason I don't want Marquise Brown is because he's short. And I feel like we already got that dude. Like Elijah Moore is a slower version of Marquise Brown.
But Marquise Brown is a much better player.
He is. But
and Marquise Brown.
But I see you.
He's tiny, man.
Yeah, I hear
Smallish
you. He
receivers.
is. Go ahead, Mike.